In the 60 years of journalist Piers Morgan's life, there has never been a moment so dark and earth-shattering. The arrest of Prince Andrew is not merely a breaking news ticker, it is an absolute bombshell shaking the monarchy to its very foundations. The public is witnessing the catastrophic fall of a man who still sits eighth in line to the throne. But the true terror lies not in the arrest itself, but in the chilling reason behind it. The world assumed Andrew's downfall would forever revolve around the sexual abuse scandal involving Virginia Giuffre. They were wrong. This arrest warrant carries a colder, infinitely more dangerous charge: misconduct in public office. For a decade, draped in the prestigious mantle of the UK's trade envoy, Andrew was not practicing diplomacy. He was brokering national secrets. Leaked files reveal that the prince funneled highly classified government and business intelligence to Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted pedophile and financial predator. He traded the security and secrets of his country for hedonistic favors and private jets. This is not merely moral decay, this is treasonous behavior. If convicted, the prince's life will end behind the cold steel bars of a life sentence. In the past, the late Queen Elizabeth II, blinded by maternal devotion, tried to shield him from the storm. She believed her son's lies, reportedly paying over $12 million to settle his legal battles, desperately trying to keep him afloat. But the reign of King Charles III leaves no room for such weakness. When the storm finally broke, Charles did not offer his brother an umbrella. In a statement of pure ice, the king referred to Andrew by his full name, stripping away all deference and decisively handing him over to the law. Charles had seen through Andrew's web of lies long ago. He understands that for the crown to survive, the tumour, named Andrew, must be excised entirely, no matter how excruciating the surgery. This is an existential threat to the monarchy, and Charles has chosen ruthlessness to ensure its survival. As authorities raided Andrew's mansions to seize his devices, the shockwave did not stop at the palace gates. It barreled straight into 10 Downing Street. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer now resembles a political dead man walking, awaiting his execution. His willful blindness in appointing Lord Mandelson, a man deeply entangled with Epstein, who also allegedly leaked sensitive information, as the ambassador to the US, has become an indelible stain. The absolute collapse of his government in the upcoming May elections seems all but prophesied. Epstein's network is reaching from beyond the grave, dragging both the royal family and the British government into the abyss. The handcuffs have clicked shut. The darkest secrets locked inside Andrew's confiscated hard drives are waiting to be dragged into the light. King Charles sits in his study, watching his kingdom undergo the bloodiest purge in its modern history. And far away in Montecito, a duchess is trembling. If King Charles can exile his own wife, Camilla, and throw his own flesh and blood, Andrew, to the wolves to protect the throne, then she, a runaway outsider, is nothing but dust waiting to be crushed. The raids on Royal Lodge were executed with surgical, terrifying precision. Scotland Yard did not just take the prince, they took his digital soul. Laptops, encrypted hard drives, private servers, and decades-old mobile phones were bagged and tagged in sterile plastic evidence folders. For years, Prince Andrew believed the stone walls of the Windsor estate made him untouchable. He forgot that in the 21st century, treason leaves a digital footprint. Inside the cybercrimes unit, analysts are slowly cracking open the encrypted vaults of the Duke of York. What they are finding is highly radioactive. It is no longer just about the trade envoy treason. It is a labyrinth of leaked emails between Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein. The police are now holding the unredacted passenger manifests of the private jets, the financial ledgers of the hush money payments, and the undeniable photographic proof of the young women smuggled through the palace gates. The $12 million shield that the late Queen bought for him has just been shattered by a police battering ram. The truth is no longer a tabloid rumour, it is state evidence. In a windowless, concrete interrogation room in London, the former golden boy sits alone. There is no mahogany desk, no royal crest, and no deferential staff to pour his tea. During his catastrophic 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, Andrew famously claimed he had a peculiar medical condition that made it impossible for him to sweat. But sitting under the harsh fluorescent lights of police custody, faced with documents detailing life imprisonment charges for misconduct in public office, the prince is finally sweating. He realizes the terrifying reality. His mother is gone. There is no monarch left to write a cheque. King Charles has initiated Protocol 0, locking the palace gates behind him. But a cornered royal is a dangerous animal. If Andrew realizes he is going down for life, will he go quietly into the night? Or will he sing? Will he detonate the final charges threatening to expose other elites, politicians and family members in a desperate plea deal? If I fall, the unspoken threat lingers in the interrogation room. I am taking the entire house of cards down with me. Thousands of miles away, the California sun is shining, but the temperature inside the Montecito mansion has dropped below freezing. Meghan Markle is alone. Harry has already taken the midnight flight to London, but the departure of her husband is suddenly the least of her problems. Meghan watches the news of the Scotland Yard raids and a cold dread paralyzes her. She remembers the York Ledger, the blackmail dossier detailing Fergie and Andrew's Epstein connections, the very documents she tried to weaponize against Prince William to hide her own scandals. Her PR team had called it leverage. The law calls it extortion. If Scotland Yard's cyber unit is tearing through Andrew and Fergie's servers, how long before they find the digital trail leading straight back to California? How long before they uncover the encrypted emails from Montecito proving that the Duchess of Sussex attempted to blackmail the future King of England with classified evidence from an active federal sex trafficking and treason investigation? Meghan thought she was playing a game of royal PR. She thought it was a battle of tabloid headlines and Netflix documentaries. She didn't realize she had stepped into a geopolitical minefield of treason, state secrets, and international law enforcement. King Charles didn't just exile Camilla and arrest Andrew to clean house, he did it to set the board for the final checkmate. By allowing the police full access to the Epstein-York files, the king has legally unsealed the very documents that will expose Meghan's blackmail plot. He doesn't need to attack her in the press. He is letting Scotland Yard and the FBI do the hunting for him. The Sussex mansion is dead silent. Meghan stares at the heavy wooden gates of her estate, waiting. Waiting for the flashing lights, waiting for the federal agents. She wanted a royal life of global consequence. She is about to get it. Inside the $14 million mansion, silent as a tomb, Meghan Markle stands over a heavy-duty paper shredder in her private office. The pale blue light from the computer monitor illuminates her pale, sweat-beaded face. Everything is collapsing at the speed of light. Harry has signed the annulment papers and fled to London on a midnight flight. Her master plan using the York ledger to blackmail Prince William and hide her 1975 age fraud and the surrogacy contract is no longer a trump card. It is a death warrant. On the muted CNN broadcast in the corner of the room, a red ticker flashes. Scotland Yard seizes Prince Andrew's private servers. Meghan understands exactly what that means. The encrypted emails she sent to Kensington Palace, threatening to leak the York Epstein files, are no longer leverage. They are now in the hands of the UK police's cybercrime unit. The evidence of her blackmail is no longer controlled by William. It has become state evidence. She frantically feeds copies of surrogacy agreements and old birth certificates into the shredder's blades. But how do you shred a digital footprint that MI5 and the FBI are already tracking? It is 4:15 a.m. in California. Inside the billionaire enclave of Montecito, even the crickets seem to hold their breath. Meghan has just locked her encrypted hard drive into a safe when a sound echoes through the estate, freezing the blood in her veins. It is not the polite chime of a delivery driver. It is the heavy, violent, rhythmic pounding of tactical boots, the glaring headlights of 3 unmarked black SUVs pierce through the ornate iron gates. FBI, open the door. We have a federal search warrant. The voice booming through the bullhorn, tears through the night. The rescue dogs bark furiously. The internal security system flashes a blinding red across the hallways. Meghan's private security team, the men who aggressively shoved away paparazzi for years, freeze in their tracks, immediately lowering their weapons and stepping back at the sight of federal badges. The heavy oak doors are shoved open. A dozen agents wearing windbreakers with bold yellow FBI lettering swarm the grand foyer. They don't care about the expensive artwork or the Hermes rugs. They march straight toward the private office. Meghan stands there, wrapped in an expensive silk robe, desperately trying to play her final role. The victimized duchess. What on earth are you doing? I am the Duchess of Sussex. You have no right to... A female agent with a face like stone steps forward, holding up a warrant signed by a US federal judge executed in coordination with Interpol and Scotland Yard. Meghan Markle, we are executing a warrant to seize all electronic devices, physical documents, and private servers on this property. This is in connection to an expanded federal investigation into the Epstein sex trafficking network, Prince Andrew, and charges of transnational extortion. The arrogant mask shatters. Meghan's eyes widen in absolute terror. The phrase transnational extortion drops like a judge's gavel. William wasn't bluffing. The future king's Protocol Zero wasn't a petty PR war fought in the tabloids. It was a lethal, silent legal strike using the world's most powerful intelligence agencies. She tried to weaponize the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein, and now that very ghost is dragging her into the abyss. The agents rip hard drives from their towers, seal mobile phones in evidence bags, and confiscate the trash bags full of freshly shredded paper. They work with a deafening, mechanical silence. Meghan sinks into a velvet armchair. There is no one left. There is no Prince Harry to play the protective hero. There is no aggressive PR team to spin a web of lies. There is no Oprah Winfrey to offer a couch and a tissue. There is only the cold, hard reality of the law. Across the Atlantic, King Charles III and Prince William have completed the most ruthless purge in modern royal history. A queen consort, Camilla, banished. A Prince, Andrew, CAGED. And now the counterfeit duchess faces the full wrath of the justice system. The audience has gone home. The million-dollar contracts have evaporated. The fake crown has fallen into the mud. It is 7 a.m. in California. The morning fog rolling off the Pacific Ocean is cut by the deafening chop of news helicopters circling the Montecito estate. Story has broken, not in the gossip columns or the tabloid magazines, but on the breaking news tickers of CNN, BBC, and Fox News. The world watches in stunned silence as aerial footage shows FBI agents carrying dozens of sealed boxes, computer servers, and encrypted hard drives out of the $14 million mansion. The headlines are merciless. Duchess in custody, FBI raids Sussex estate in connection to Andrew Epstein cyber extortion plot. There are no paparazzi hired to take glowing filtered photos of her walking through a parking lot. There are no paid PR bots to trend hashtags of support. The global Hollywood elite, the Clooneys, the Perrys, the Oprahs, issue immediate, coordinated statements of distancing. In the ruthless currency of Hollywood, Meghan is no longer just difficult to work with. She is legally radioactive. The phones in the Sussex PR agency ring unanswered. In a sterile, windowless room inside the FBI field office in Los Angeles, there are no velvet couches or soft lighting. There is only a steel table, 2 federal agents, and a woman who has finally run out of scripts. Meghan Markle sits with her arms crossed, the silk robe replaced by standard-issue holding clothes. She attempts to summon the indignation that works so well on television.
I want to speak to my lawyers, and I demand to speak to the British Embassy. You cannot hold me here. I am the Duchess of Sussex, daughter-in-law to the King of England. The lead investigator, a man with a face carved from granite, does not blink. He opens a manila folder and slides a single watermarked document across the steel table. It bears the official crest of Buckingham Palace, dated just 1 hour ago. You might want to read this before you claim diplomatic immunity, Ms. Markle, the agent says, his voice devoid of any emotion. Meghan's eyes dart down to the paper. It is a royal letters patent, signed in the jagged, forceful handwriting of King Charles III. It is the decree of abeyance.
Given her involvement in criminal extortion against the crown, her royal styles and titles have been immediately suspended. She is stripped of the HRH. She is stripped of the Sussex name. The document explicitly states that she operates as a private American citizen and enjoys zero protection from the British state. The king has legally abandoned her to the wolves, 6,000 miles away. Inside the ancient, impenetrable walls of Buckingham Palace, there is no celebration. There is only the heavy, solemn silence of a surgical amputation successfully completed. King Charles stands by the window of his private study, looking out at the rain-swept streets of London. Beside him stands Prince William, the Iron Heir who engineered Protocol Zero. They watch the muted television screen as the news of the Montecito raid dominates the global airwaves. They do not gloat. They are monarchs, not reality stars. They have sacrificed their own flesh and blood, a queen consort exiled to Wiltshire, a brother locked in a federal cell, and a prodigal son, Harry, hidden away in a secure psychiatric wing of the Windsor estate to begin his long, brutal deprogramming. "It is done," William says quietly, his voice carrying the immense weight of the future. "The infection is cleared," Charles replies, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "The crown remains. They survived the York treason. They survived the Montecito blackmail. The institution that has stood for 1,000 years proved once again that it will outlast any individual ego that tries to burn it down. Back in Los Angeles, the realization finally hits Meghan Markle. The echo chamber has collapsed. The camera is not rolling for a documentary, it is rolling for a federal deposition. She looks at the two agents, the royal decree resting on the table, and the mountain of shredded, reassembled evidence pointing to her $500,000 surrogacy fraud and the Epstein extortion plot. She opens her mouth to weave one last narrative, one last story of victimhood, one last tearful plea to an audience that no longer exists. But for the first time in her life, she realizes that no one is listening. The stainless steel table in Interrogation Room 4 is freezing to the touch. Across from Meghan sit two seasoned FBI agents who specialize in transnational cybercrime and extortion. They do not care about her podcast. They do not care about her Oprah interview. They care about the digital forensics laid out in front of them. "You don't understand," Meghan says, her voice trembling, stripped of its usual rehearsed cadence. "I was protecting my family. The palace is a toxic institution. I had to use that ledger to keep William from destroying my children's legacy." Agent Miller, the lead investigator, leans forward. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply taps the first file. "Ms. Markle, extortion is not a public relations strategy. It is a federal felony. We have the encrypted emails you sent to Kensington Palace demanding the termination of the Florida age fraud investigation in exchange for the York Epstein files." He taps the second file. "Furthermore, the seizure of your servers this morning has provided the unredacted wire transfers amounting to exactly $500,000 sent to a discreet surrogacy clinic in 2018. Completely contradicting the medical records submitted to the British Crown." The air is sucked out of the room. The moonbump conspiracy, the 1975 birth certificate forgery, the desperate blackmail attempt using Prince Andrew's darkest secrets, it has all been reconstructed from the ashes of her midnight shredding panic. The walls of her meticulously crafted reality are closing in, built entirely of her own digital footprint. As the interrogation grinds on, a historic event is taking place in London. At precisely 12 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, an official easel is placed in the forecourt of Buckingham Palace. But this is not a birth announcement or a notice of a royal wedding. It is an instrument of erasure. The BBC interrupts its regular broadcasting. A visibly grave news anchor reads the official statement directly from the King's desk. "By the grace of God, King Charles III, having consulted with the Privy Council and the Prince of Wales, doth hereby declare that the titles, styles, and dignities of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are held in permanent abeyance. The individuals formerly known under these titles are hereby stripped of the style of Royal Highness. They shall no longer act, speak, or conduct themselves as representatives of this monarchy." It is a total, unprecedented excommunication. The Sussex brand, built on a foundation of inherited privilege and endless grievances, is legally vaporized in seconds. Back in Los Angeles, Agent Miller's phone buzzes. He looks at the encrypted message, nods, and slides the final piece of paper across the steel table to the woman sitting opposite him. It is a printed copy of the palace's press release. "Your diplomatic status was already suspended," Miller says flatly. "But as of 10 minutes ago, your royal status has been officially terminated by the head of state. You are no longer a duchess. You are no longer a royal highness." Meghan stares at the paper. The gold crest of the Windsor family seems to mock her from the page. She reads the words, but her mind cannot process the absolute finality of it. She spent her entire life climbing the ladder of fame, stepping over family, friends, and protocol to reach the ultimate pinnacle of global royalty. And now, with a single sheet of paper, she has been thrown all the way back down to the bottom. For the purpose of this federal deposition, Agent Miller concludes, clicking his pen and opening a fresh transcript pad, please state your full legal name for the record. Meghan opens her mouth, but the grand, victimized speeches die in her throat. She looks at the two agents. She looks at the mountain of evidence that will put her behind bars. She looks at the decree that erased her fairy tale. She swallows hard, her voice barely a whisper in the cold, windowless room. Rachel Meghan Markle,